Hey guys, MSG Retired here with the long-awaited suspension special. Thanks to Rob's Dyno Service. Rob's Dyno Service, Gardner, Mass. He's an Ohlins sales and service facility. I love Ohlins suspension. Like I said, this is my own opinion, my own install video, so don't get crazy on me. But the long-awaited HD044 shocks finally came in, and yesterday we spent the day installing them. Today I did the final setup on them and took it for a test ride, and that's what I'm bringing you today. So without further ado, we're going to get into a suspension primer, basically. Talk a little bit about the different types of shocks, what's going on inside the shocks. Then we'll get into the installation, the setup, and the test ride. So hope you enjoy the content. Make sure you subscribe, give me a thumbs up, all that good stuff. Okay, here's 4 different types of shock absorbers that are out there for motorcycles. The first one is actually a nitrogen-filled emulsion type shock. And the introduction of the nitrogen gas into that is to keep the oil from cavitating while riding. Bumps and jars can tend to get that fluid to cavitate. It creates heat and suspension fade. So with the introduction of nitrogen into the shock body along with the oil, it keeps it from cavitating as much. You're going to find mainly these. A straight emulsion shock will not have nitrogen in it, and you'll be able to tell because there'll be some type of a fitting on the shock absorber in order to service it by adding nitrogen to it. Everything is mixed together in the shock body. Number 2 is an internal gas reservoir type shock where the gas is separated from the oil. And then number 3 and number 4, those are reservoir type shocks. One of them is piggybacked on the shock. The other one is via a hose to a remote reservoir. And usually on number 3 and number 4, you're going to have additional adjustments to where you can adjust your compression damping, rebound damping, whereas you don't find that as much on the less expensive emulsion or internal gas reservoir shocks. Okay, let's talk briefly about what's going on inside the shock. This is an Ohlins illustration, and the actual piston portion is actually the valve. And if you look at number 1 and number 2, number 1 is showing fluid transfer for low volume, and it's going to be for compression and rebound. And then number 2 is high volume. Now, when you're looking at number 2, that's actually the piston of the shock, and it has what they call a shim stack. Now, those shims look like washers here, and they're very thin steel shims. And you stack them up accordingly as to how soft or hard you want it to be for that fluid to pass through the orifices that are in the piston itself. And I'm not going to get any more in depth than that because I could be here for hours talking about shim stacks and how to set them up. I've done plenty of that back in the day utilizing Racetech Gold Valve emulators, where I've made my own custom shim stacks for my front forks, and it really gets complicated. You really need to understand the fluid dynamics involved, and we're not going to go there. I just wanted to let you see exactly what's happening inside that shock. Okay, so now that we got the suspension primer out of the way, we're going to get into the installation and setup and a test ride. So just remember, my opinion, okay? This is my install / review video. It's my opinion on Ohlins suspension. This topic gets out of control on all the forums. It gets out of control on Facebook. It gets out of control everywhere. Everybody's got their own opinions. This is my opinion. And I base this on 40 years of riding, and I've used multiple Ohlins products over the years. both on the track and on the street, and I've been very happy with it. Price, not a factor any longer. If you look at comparable stuff that's out there, Legend makes comparable shocks. Price difference is irrelevant. It's mainly the same price. And if you want to stick with Harley Davidson, you can always go right on Screaming Eagle parts and order up a set of these shocks. They even have a really nice mount for them, where I'm just using a little angle piece of metal to mount the reservoirs. They have a really fancy mount for the Harley Davidson ones. Anyway, on to the installation. Alright guys, as promised, this is going to be part one of the suspension special, and we're talking about Ohlins suspension. Rob's Dyno dealer, can service them, anything you need. These are the 044s, and as of August last year, just to tell you how good this suspension is, Harley Davidson now offers a Screaming Eagle version of this. All it is it's just got a black reservoir and a black shock body. You know, I've been seeing a lot of different videos on suspension, and guys saying, well, I got a set of self-adjusting shocks. They're emulsion shocks. They don't have any rebound, any compression dampening adjustments. All they've got is a preload. And no, that's not how that goes. So we're going to go over installation of the shocks, and we are going to go over setting the sag, which we're going to have to set by adjusting this, and we're going to set it to about 25 to 30 millimeters of sag with the rider full gear on the bike. I will say this, they came with a set of brackets. I had to remove my filler lights I had back here because these brackets bolt in, and I don't know, I think I'm going to be okay with this glow reservoir back there instead of a tail light. I'll probably put some bag lights on it after that. So I'm going to go ahead and get the suspension off and start putting this stuff on there, and we'll be back. Alright, so here we go. We're going to get the current suspension off. It's the Harley Premium hand adjustable crap suspension, basically, and we're going to get that off of there, and we're going to get these new shocks on. So I'm going to let the video run. I'll show you some clips while we're doing it, and then we'll finish it up. And as I said, this is part one. Part two is going to be the front. That's a little more in-depth, where you have to take the forks out and replace them with Ohlins cartridges. I will show you what the Ohlins cartridges look like on this video, and then we'll get really in-depth into that when we put them in. For those of you guys at home, putting a set of shocks on is not rocket science. Trust me, you guys can do it at home. Don't spend big money taking them somewhere to get them done. I'm doing it here at Rob's shop just because Rob lets me use the shop, and we work on my bike here, and he's a great guy, does great work for me. He's done all my tuning, and we have fun.
That's the most part, the biggest part.
Let me just show them that shock. So this is the what Harley calls their premium suspension, hand adjustable. It's better than the air shocks, but it's junk in comparison to almost any aftermarket shock you could put on there. Just really not a real good quality ride. And like I said, the Ohlins 044s are awesome. You can adjust for your compression damping and your rebound damping, and you can dial it right in depending on where you're riding and what you're doing. You have to know a little bit about suspension if you're going to be monkeying around with it and making adjustments, but I'll tell you, it's going to be the best ride ever. And I got to take my hat off to the guys, King of the Bagger Racing. They're the ones that have made these shocks top of the line, top notch for the Harley Baggers. The Harley Baggers are just exploding on the scene now with all kinds of performance mods. You can even get inverted Ohlins front forks for them through Kraus. They make a complete kit. Comes with the triple tree, the forks, everything you need to convert over to inverted if you got the money. Well, that was quick. I turned around and over there.
And one of the things you didn't mention, that the rear shocks on the Ohlins have height adjustment as well on the bottom of the shock.
That's correct. The one thing I did forget to mention, it's got a lock nut down here. You get up to 10 millimeters of adjustment for the actual shock length. I had that on the set of 36s I had on my 07, but the 044, same thing. So you've got just numerous adjustments that can be made for your suspension. And like I said, this is top of the line, the best there is. I don't think anybody makes anything better.
And here's this shock that's useless.
Yeah, and it's now a lot of people talk about the difference in the shocks. Well, the reason is one side of the premium suspension does your compression and the other side does your rebound, and that's why you have two different size shocks. And I believe this shock is the rebound shock, and the other one is your compression. So that's why you got two weird size shocks from the factory. Blue Loctite.
Yeah, right. It's already on the bench.
Yeah, a little bit of blue Loctite.
Loctite goes a long way. Alright, I gotta jack this up a little bit.
Sure. A little bit more. There you go.
You wanna jack it up just a tad more?
Sure. Hold on 1 second. Let me just get that boat started. Say when.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, that should do it. Yeah, take this off as well. Alright. Alright, get a box upstairs, start putting all these parts into one, or a spot, have it ready. Alright, we're gonna take these off, check as they're clean as well. And then we're gonna take.
Basically, that's how easy it is to install these shocks. And I'll be back with the video as we set the sag on here, and we'll take it for a quick test run. Alright, so we're getting closer. We are adjusting for the preload right at the moment. And how you do that, oh yeah, look at these pretty fancy shiny gold. Oh, it's going to be awesome. But yeah, the suspension is going to be amazing. Alright, so let's go over here and talk about the setup. So on the website, let's see if I can get that shadow out of there. It's going to be kind of hard to videotape a computer screen, but we'll try. So the settings for mine turned out to be 5 millimeters. So we got the measurement due to my weight and what I have in the bags, and this is the base setting for the preload. And then once we get it off, get it back on the ground, I'll sit on the bike and we'll measure for the actual sag.
No, this is that, once they do that measurement, you'll be all set. This is Ohlins' new way. No longer we have to measure the sag.
Really?
Yep. They've figured it out. Well, we can always, oops,
That's all right.
adjust. You know,
We're gonna what?
put the other bracket on?
It's already on.
Oh, that's only uses one bracket.
Yeah. It's just the single clamp bracket on there. So now we're gonna have these two fancy gold things on the back of my bike instead of brake lights, which is fine with me.
3 or 5.
Okay, so the rear suspension's all set. All set up on the bike. We got the preload set, took it for a test ride. It rides amazing. This is the weak point. Everybody neglects their front suspension. And with Ohlins, they've got a cartridge replacement. You take the insides of your forks out. These go in there. These are a cartridge type fork. You've got a preload adjustment on the cap. Also, you have rebound and dampening adjustments on the cap. Purchase the spring separately from the cartridge. Install this. Put it in the front end, and your front end will be just as good, if not better, than the rear. And like I said, the weakest point in your suspension, when you just do rear shocks, of course your front end is going to be your weak point as far as your suspension goes. But with this and the adjustments, you can really have a super handling Harley bagger. All right, we'll be back for part 2 for the installation of the cartridges at some point. Give you a little bit of something to see there as we hit some of these bumps. And this is all the stuff I used to try and avoid. And I still do, with the exception of this video. Now with my old premium shocks on here, they'd be jarring my teeth loose. And we get the sun right in the eyeballs. And some bumps there right before the end. And that's going to conclude the shock video.